We're talking about the overhead press or the strict press, or more specifically, we'll talk about the worst cue for any overhead pressing type of movement, and we'll talk about what you're supposed to do instead so that you have healthy or proper movement of the shoulders. The key idea that we're talking about here is scapulohumeral rhythm. Now, what does that mean? Pretty much means that your shoulder blade and your arm are supposed to move together when doing daily activities, sports, or even in the weight room. A lot of the training that you'll do in the gym will have you pin your shoulders down and back, like when you're doing a bench press, when you're creating your arch, or a pull-up, when you're pulling down and back as you get to the top. It's not a bad thing, and it's necessary for these types of movements, but when you're training the overhead range of motion, the complete opposite is supposed to happen. You have a lot of muscles that we call force couples, so with upper trap, lower trap, serratus anterior, that are essentially supposed to move your shoulder blade into upward rotation and protraction and elevation, which allows your shoulder blade to get out of the way to make room for your arm to go overhead properly. And so what I just described here is that scapulohumeral rhythm where the shoulder blade moves up as the arm goes up, and that kind of happens in unison. If you think about pinning your shoulders down and back, then you're not allowing those muscles to do their job, and you're not allowing for that proper rhythm, and you're just flat out doing the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. Now, some coaches will tell you that you need to be stable in order to press big weights, and they'll use the analogy of you can't shoot a cannon from a canoe, essentially alluding to the fact that if you put a cannon on a canoe, then that canoe is going to be wobbly and you won't be able to shoot a cannon from that unstable position. Now, what do I think about this argument? Ask any NFL quarterback or MLB pitcher if they're pinning their shoulder blade down and back before they throw the ball, and you'll quickly understand that that analogy just makes no sense at all. Your shoulder is supposed to be stable in all ranges of motion, and it's able to stabilize itself through motion, not without motion. So what's the cue when it comes to overhead pressing? It's essentially don't think about your shoulders, just let them do their thing. And the same thing goes with pulling movements. When you're doing a pull-up, when you get to the bottom, your shoulder blades are going to move upwards a little bit, and as you're pulling back, then they're gonna move downwards afterwards. Same with the dumbbell row, which is more of like a horizontal plane. Your shoulder's gonna move forward at the front and is gonna retract at the back. If you've been thinking about pinning your shoulders back during your pressing exercises, a great exercise you can do to start practicing that would be a half kneeling landmine press. And so you're focusing on one arm at a time, really making sure that that one shoulder is moving properly. And then as you press up into the movement, you're gonna allow for that reach to happen, which is gonna allow you to then transfer the skill over into a barbell press. Give that one a shot. Let me know how it feels down in the comments. I'll talk to you next time.